Okay, so I'm going to answer a few questions that I've been getting this week through emails regarding Wahoo fishing and what type of spread that I recommend. Welcome to the Good Karma Sport Fishing Podcast. I'm your host, Captain Ryan Van Fleet. Okay, so I've been getting a lot of emails about Wahoo fishing. First, I just want to say that I encourage everybody to develop their own styles and try different things on their own. I can give you some guidelines, and like I said, every magazine out there, they give you different guidelines, and a lot of magazines are wrong. I haven't seen there's lots of theories and different things, but guys, only the fish know. So the best thing I can tell you guys is when it comes to picking lures for Wahoo fishing or live bait fishing or how do I do this, how do I do that, I really don't know until I wake up in the morning, honestly, of what I'm going to run. I'll have a bunch of, if you've seen my lure table, like I'll go to bed and I'll throw like 40 different styles of lures on my table, on my workbenches, and I'll look through them. I'm like, man, and then I'll go to bed, I'll wake up, and I might take 3 of them. So, I mean, I really just don't know. And I like to try different lures because it just makes things interesting for me. But when I'm targeting Wahoo, I have in my mind, what I'm going to do, but I just have to put that out of my head because I have to catch fish, not just a Wahoo. And when a captain gets focused in on one fish, that's a recipe for disaster, because time flies out there, and if you know the other guy's catching and you're like hell bent on catching one fish, then it's called ego, and ego gets in the way. And one of my favorite quotes comes from Diamond Dallas Page. He has got that yoga thing going on right now, which is very cool. He's doing rehabilitation for people, and I think the NFL's using his DDP yoga, they call it, which is very cool. But he's got a quote, and he says, "Ego kills talent." Okay, for some reason that stuck in my mind when I heard that, and a lot of fishermen have big egos. So when I go to work in the morning, I really want to, be great to catch a big Wahoo, okay? Be great. And if I was recreational fishing for fun, oh yeah, that's all I would do. I would, because I don't really feel the need that if I'm recreational fishing, I could care less about catching fish. But if I'm going looking for a big Wahoo, that's all I'm going to do. I could care less about catching anything else. So, and I do that when I go fishing on my own. I like, I'll come back to the dock and I'll take 2 rods with me. And there's some days when I'll come back and I won't have anything. And guys will ask me, well, didn't you catch anything? I said, I wasn't looking for big fish. I wasn't looking for Wahoo. I didn't get a bite. Or I got 2 bites that didn't stick. And I remember 3 years ago, I told the guys I grabbed 1 fishing rod and 1 lure. Okay, I trolled for 6.5 hours. And finally at low tide, I got 1 big Wahoo. And on 1 rod, on a downrigger rod, because I knew that was the only bite I was going to get. I also remember taking 1 rod with me and running a long center rod because I couldn't afford downriggers yet. And way back when I first learned how to Wahoo fish, I just knew that running a black and red feather down the middle, one of those no alibis, black and red feathers with an orange head over a big horse ballyhoo, that was going to get me a bite, and it did. I caught several Wahoo on that bait, and I lost several too, more than I want to count. But they're just so tough to hook on ballyhoo. So, but you get a lot of bites, you catch a lot of big fish on ballyhoo. So, which leads me into where I'm at now. So, when I go to work for a client, I go to work to catch the client fish. So, I run a mixed bag of spread, and when I say, sometimes I get people that get on the boat, they don't even know what a Wahoo is. And I've had several clients catch 50, 40, 50-pound Wahoos, and they don't know what it is. So, and then they ask me, can we go catch a dolphin? Okay. So, and that's the honest to God's truth. And then there's the other half of me, it's like, okay, this is what I want to do, but I don't do that. I don't. I separate it out. So when I Wahoo fish, I target various species, okay? So I specifically only run 3 rods when I'm targeting when I'm running a down rod, then I run a long center, then I run a short. So that's all I run. I run 3. And if I've got a client who's been fishing with me for years and he can handle, 4 to 5 rods, I'll put him out because he knows the drill and he knows what to do when we make tight turns and how to clear rods. But typically I only run 3. And sometimes guys, I have to drop down to 1. And I've got many pictures to show several different Wahoo, like limits of Wahoo, just with 1 rod out, which is great. So, but that just goes to show you. So back to what I was talking about. I run a mixed spread, okay? So I run a bait deep. What I put on that deep bait rod, it just depends, really. I mix it up. I'll run a trolling plug deep on it. I'll run a ballyhoo over a sea witch deep. What colors I use? Lure colors. I change my lure colors a lot. So there's only one color that I leave in all the time, and that's a blue and white sea witch made by Wild Willie. And I personally like glow in my lures, especially in the Keys, especially like a super glow strip. And I do like Mylar. I like silver Mylar. I think it really does flash. That goes back to the old spear diver when you watch the videos and you can see the Wahoo attracted to the flashers. It's really, they use a lot of silver, and it's just how it reflects in the light. It's got to catch the light right, and it just draws the attention of the Wahoo. So like I said, I use a combination of lures with glow. In fact, all my lures have super glow in them. So I just strongly believe in glow. And the only lures that don't have glow in them are my trolling plugs. Now, as far as, okay, so I change stuff around a lot because if something isn't working within the first hour, it gets changed. The only bait that stays out there is a blue and white sea witch by Wild Willie. That's it. That bait stays in the water all the time because blue and white is a standard color that always gets bit, even on the tough days. I have 100% confidence in that bait. It stays out no matter what. Now, as far as the other colors go, I'll start off in the morning with a black and red, and then I'll have a wild card in there. So the old wild card. I personally am not a fan of purple and black. I don't know. That color just annoys me. I'm sorry, but it just does. But I really, my favorite colors, I love an all crystal witch, and crystal is just a good all-around sea witch color. It really does pop in the water. It gives a really natural color. I talked about that in a previous podcast. If you want to go back and look at sea witches, I talked about that in one of the episodes. So you want to go back and listen to that, and that'll give you a little history about crystal hair. So not all. So there's only a few places that you can buy sea witches with crystal hair. Islander used to use crystal hair. I don't believe they do anymore because when I put it in the water, it doesn't pop like it used to. I think it's just straight white hair right now, but don't quote me on that. But the crystal hair is very good. So, like I said, though, years ago I bought, let's just put it like this. I have a major supply of crystal hair in my closet, and I keep it because the stuff is very hard to get, and I have it. So I bought, when I owned Jimmy Jigs, the secret to success of that lure was the crystal hair. If you guys go back and look, you'll see that all white lure. That's not white hair. That is crystal, and that stuff glows purple in the water. It's just an awesome color for a bright sunny day, and it's as natural as you can get as far as a color goes. And the fish just love it when it's skirted over a ballyhoo. The way that blends in with a ballyhoo just brings that ballyhoo to life. So I encourage you guys to go back and listen to my previous podcasts where I talked about sea witches, and you'll learn a little bit more about what sea witch colors I like. But as far as the colors that I really like, it just varies. My personal favorites are black and red for Wahoo, blue and white. I like pink and white. I like all crystal. I've got some oddball ones that I like. One color I do want to try a little bit more of is I've got some colors that I'm playing with, but like with anything else, I'm confident in the lures that I have, so I'll always throw a few into the mix just to try and play around with this season but I really, once I get through the months of I like to troll in November and some of December. And then after that, I switch and go to live bait because the Wahoo that I catch on live bait are, number one, they're bigger than on the troll. And I catch more Wahoo on live bait than I get more bites throughout the tide than I do when I'm trolling. And over the years, I'm not a huge fan of trolling for Wahoo, but it produces. So because I really like the live bait fish for Wahoo because it's a lot more fun to do it on light tackle. And the first Wahoo that you see sky out of the water for a Speedo or a goggle eye, and like a missile, and you see him see his eyes. I still remember that, and ever since that day, man, I try to put away those trolling sticks as much as I can because the visual bite is intense, and my clients really enjoy that. So they absolutely hate dragging a fish across the surface. They absolutely hate it. So I'm not into Wahoo fishing for ego or how many fish I can rack up. Okay, I run a charter fishing business, and I want my clients to have an extraordinary time. Okay, and them dragging a fish across the surface, they look at me like, and I've had clients do this. They look at me like, "That's it," and they're like, "Whoa." So can we go do something else? That's what I hear. Can we go do something else? So when I started live bait fishing for Wahoo and they got to see those extraordinary strikes, they started catching some really nice big blackfin tunas. Then the sailfish will jump on. And then when the Wahoos are biting, it's intense. So, and we're catching these Wahoo on 30-pound line when small Talica 16 reels on live bait rods. And I'm like, oh, so I can't wait to do a little bit of kite fishing for the Wahoos this year. I'm going to be doing a little bit of that. Like I said, I run a lot of deep baits. I catch them on the surface. How do I know what they're going to do? One day they want the flat lines. But that's what makes it so much fun. It's just a lot of different challenges out there. And like I said, I make the most out of my time on the water. If I don't get them, I don't get them. It just makes you. I mean, it's just how it is. And I used to get kind of pissed off about it, but I don't anymore. I just, as long as my clients are happy, we caught some nice fish, and everybody got some dinner, and we had some good action. That's all that really matters to me. Whether I catch a Wahoo or not, big deal. But it sure would be nice, and I'm really focusing on catching really big Wahoo this year, so I'm changing it up because a 70-pound Wahoo is a hell of a lot better than a 50-pound Wahoo. So, and catching them on lighter tackle because like I said in a previous podcast, man, Tread Barta, the guy was the guy was kind of a smart ass when he was alive, but man, he was a good dude. And he always liked catching big fish on light line and light tackle. And I think a lot of people need to get back to that and quit pushing the buttons on the electrics and all that good stuff. So dragging Wahoos across the surface, especially a 30 to 40 pounder. So I encourage you guys to challenge yourselves, try to catch some Wahoo on some lighter tackle this year, change it up But I guess the bottom line is that do what you really love to do out there, what you have the most confidence in, and fish the conditions. That's all I got for today, guys. Thanks for tuning in, And remember, anytime you're fishing, it's all good.